Hi, it's George from Any Old Music. During the UK COVID lockdowns, my friends and I used the Civilisation games as a way of meeting up virtually. Without fail, each time we would play Civilisation 6, one of us would end up singing or humming the main theme, Sogno di Volare by Christopher Tin, into our headsets. For this reason, I thought it would be a great piece to take a look at, especially as I was able to gain access to the orchestral score via encoder. In looking at the piece, I found many insightful concepts and techniques of composition. I want to share these techniques and concepts with you here. To give a brief overview of what this will include, we'll start with the relationship between the lyrical and thematic content of the piece and how that relates to the structure, the Rondo structure of the composition. I'll also look briefly at the Ostinato of the work before moving on to the area that I found most surprising. This was the use of harmony and how it relates to a number of larger and smaller scale structures within the piece, so I suppose really harmony and tonality together. Starting first with text and structure, Sogno di Volare is loosely in rondo form. Its design can be defined as follows: A, B, A1, C, B1, A. The reoccurrence of the A section between multiple different sections is what makes this a rondo composition. One can identify the rondo form of this piece in two ways. Firstly by the use of the lyrics, and secondly by the use of the themes, which generally correspond to each other. Starting first with the lyrics, these can be colour coded to highlight the form. Using colours allows us to see which stanzas are repeated. For example, the verses in black are the repeating A sections of the rondo form. As you can see, there are multiple stanzas in black, and in between these stanzas is text in other colours. The green and blue text highlights the use of theme 2. The reason for the two separate colours is to highlight the use of a part of the stanza as a bridge. The blue text is paired with a harmonic sequential passage that leads each time to the reprisal of theme 1, or the A sections. The red text defines the use of a third theme, which is labelled as C. Colour coding the text in this way clearly demonstrates the compact rondo form of the work. The thematic material of Sogno di Volare is concise. While it uses 3 different themes in a relatively short piece of orchestral music, they boast motivic similarities. These similarities make the composition feel unified. Each of the 3 themes can be paired with a portion of the colour-coded text. Firstly, theme 1 can be paired with the stanzas in black. Secondly, theme 2 with the stanzas in blue and green. The distinction of that I'll talk about shortly. And thirdly, the stanza in red is for theme 3. Therefore, if the lyrics were omitted for whatever reason, the thematic material would also communicate the rondo structure of the work as well. If we extract the 3 themes, it is much easier to see their motivic consistencies. For example, in the extracts on screen, I've highlighted the persistent use of certain intervals. The consistent use of intervals is important as it imbues each of the themes with similar characteristics. Furthermore, some of these intervals relate, as we'll see, to other structures within the work. My first set of annotations highlights the use of the unison and minor second intervals within each of the themes. While less prominent, I think their use is noteworthy due to the position in the themes. The use of the unison and minor second often occurs at the beginning of the melodies. These are obviously the first set of intervals that we hear, makes them really stand out. In the case of the second theme, we have to accept the unison as being similar to the octave, but this reveals a simple way of varying the theme by maintaining pitch content, but adjusting the intervals. Subtle, it creates sort of a measured variation where we can appreciate both the difference and similarity. Similarly, the unison and minor second in the third melody line bind it to the first. While theme 3 is rhythmically augmented, the interval patterns for the first 4 notes are the same in both melodies. Again, like the variation of the second theme, the augmentation brings freshness, while the intervallic similarities maintain consistency. The second set of annotations reveals some insightful intervallic consistencies and qualities across larger portions of each theme. The most significant is the perfect fourth, which appears as the span of many phrases and segments of each melody. Prominent in theme 1, one can see how these segments outline or do not extend beyond the span of a perfect fourth. The use of the third intervals, similar to perfect fourths, is less significant regarding melody and motif. Instead, all of the intervals in the extract become more important when we start evaluating the harmonic and tonal relationships of the piece. The third, as we will see, is a notable interval that permeates the work on a larger scale along with the perfect fourth. Before moving on to the harmonic and tonal details of the work and the relationships to the themes and things like that, I want to briefly touch on the ostinato, or at least the main ostinato. There's several ostinati in the piece. Linking to the themes, the main ostinato is almost a theme in itself. Its similarity is veiled by inversion. One can identify third and fourth relationships in the opening main ostinato through partial up to transpositions. If we extract the ostinato, the main one that is, we can start to see it spans a minor sixth, containing B flat, A and F. If we raise the B flat and A by an octave, the intervals begin to clearly outline some commonalities with the thematic material. One of these is obviously the oscillating minor second between B flat and A, but also the third and perfect fourth. I have made annotations on this ostinato highlighting these important interval relationships. These are presented in the form of the original ostinato, which has the largest span, and how it appears in Sogno di Volare, and I've also presented the transposed version to represent what I'm trying to describe here. Two of the relationships presented by the annotations are significant with regards to the themes. The unison and minor second, as we've established, are present within each of the thematic materials. This relationship is meaningful as it highlights a degree of motivic similarity between the theme and the ostinato that frequently accompanies it. Rather than having a distinct ostinato and melody part, the intervallic similarities bind them together. Furthermore, those intervals emerge regardless of the transposition. The effect of these similarities will be an increased sense of unity as the constituent parts, ostinato and theme, work together rather than counterpoint each other. In looking at the transposed version of the ostinato, we can also see some other vital relationships. These relationships are significant when considering the themes, but have salience when looking at the tonal schema and harmony as well. For example, in transposing the ostinato, the intervallic span becomes a perfect fourth. Furthermore, the minor sixth between A and F becomes a major third. As we will see, subdominant and mediant relationship and polarities are endemic in the work's harmony and tonality. Despite being a rondo form, the underlying tonal schema of Sogno di Volare takes a different trajectory. Starting and ending in B flat major, the work passes through a handful of other keys. One might anticipate that within the rondo form, B flat major would return when the A section does. However, it does not, and in avoiding B flat major through the middle section, its eventual return is made all the more gratifying at the end of the piece. In my structural breakdown, we can see components that we have discussed already. For example, the rondo label column shows how we might label the sections of the work analytically. The text column relates to the earlier colour coding of the text, while the theme column relates to the previous analysis, offering additional details on the variations of the theme where relevant. Laying out the overall structure of the work in this way is valuable as it lets us see what structures change or correspond to one another, or which structures take a different trajectory, like tonality in this instance. Similar to how John Williams uses straight transpositions of melodies in the Flag Parade theme that we looked at last week, Tin also transposes his A theme into a new key at section 4, bar 59. However, as can be seen, he varies other parameters of the A theme. For example, in bar 5, the extract, the contour is similar, but the intervals move by skip rather than step. In bar 6, the rhythm, contour and intervals are changed. These changes provide more variation than a straight transposition. Sogno di Volare sets up mediant and subdominant polarities. The mediant relationships in part occur between relative major and minor keys. I want to look at these on a smaller and larger scale, starting with the bigger stuff first. On a larger scale, one can see mediant relationships between the sections. Section 1 is in B flat major, although the harmony sets up a relationship with the relative major, G. When the same theme reappears in section 4, so does the same relationship. However, the key is now D flat major, a minor third or chromatic mediant relationship with the original B flat major. Likewise in section 6, where we hear theme 3, the key is now B flat minor, and a similar polarity, smaller scale polarity, emerges between it and its relative major, G flat major. The work therefore forges a network of mediant relationships with the relative minor and major keys, while also creating chromatic mediant relationships as the piece unfolds through modulations. In section 3, the second theme tonicizes E flat major. However, in harmonising the second theme, Tin again sets up interesting relationships between B flat minor and E flat minor, and A flat major and E flat major. The way in which Tin orders the harmonies emphasises subdominant relationships, or, in other words, the interval of the perfect fourth. For example, if we extract the harmony, the second section uses the progression shown on the screen. Highlighting the chords that are a fourth apart, we can see just how often Tin emphasises these relationships, the subdominant relationships. Building on this, the harmonisation of theme 3, or section C, as it might be labelled in the Rondo form, this emphasis on subdominant and mediants continues, and it making the emphasis undeniable in a way. If we do the same reduction of the harmony, the progression on screen is what we get from section 6 bar 91 onwards. Essentially, the chord sequence of section 6, which repeats, is a submediant movement followed by a string of subdominants. Now, I've not completed a Roman numeral analysis of Sogno di Volare. However, Tin seems to alternate between more functional and sequential harmonic passages. This is a worthwhile thing to bear in mind in composition generally, thinking about the harmonic structure you use in sections and how changing them between these sections could add to the interest of the piece overall. In using more functional harmonies, Tin substitutes chords that impose tonal polarities via diatonic, chromatic or modal means. For example, in the opening harmonisation of section 1, theme 1, the progression is G minor, E flat major, F, B flat. Highly functional, the G minor or subdominant in the above instance is a simple substitution. Giving a colour of the relative minor mode, we feel like we might be in G minor for a moment before we quickly realise that B flat is where we are, which is tonicized by the 4-5-1. This opening pattern appears again in section 4 in D flat major, where there is a reprisal of theme 1. I found this a significant creative choice, so much so that I've decided to define it as a kind of harmonic polarity, which I think could be debatable, but I do here anyway, between major and relative minor. The major key is without doubt the tonic in these sections. As I said, it's tonicized quite emphatically with a 4-5-1. In this sense, I think the polarity is not on equal terms, but present through repetition. We start with the first chord in the relative minor, departing for, I guess, a happier place in the relative major. Furthermore, other polarities and relationships emerge in patterns and sequences relating to interesting larger scale relationships that we'll discuss next. In the previous section I highlighted the relative major-minor relationship in each of the A sections. However, in doing so it also implicitly and explicitly identifies the importance of the mediant or relationship of the third. The relative minor is the submediant or a minor third below the relative major key. Furthermore, the transpositional change between the outer and inner A sections, or between A and A1 sections, is a minor third or mediant relationship. The mediant relationships also occur on a smaller scale, such as in harmonic sequences within the bridge sections. If we extract each of these sequences and reduce them to chord symbols and use bracketed Roman numerals to highlight the harmonic relationships, we can see an emphasis on the three or the mediant relationships. I use enharmonics in bar 55 and 95, otherwise the theoretical intervallic relationship would not make sense here. These sequential passages are interesting as they further emphasise third and fourth relationships on a smaller scale. Now, I'm not suggesting that this was Tin's thinking when writing the bridge section, nor any section for that matter. There is a difference between composition and analysis. Although he has said that he views structural relationships as pertinent to his compositional aesthetic, seconded only by melody. In summary, there is a lot to learn from this compact orchestral composition. I was not expecting to find what I did, and probably bit off more than I anticipated to chew. For video game, the structures and language it uses are, by no means new. However, that should not be taken negatively and is not intended to be negative. Instead, Tin cultivates interest and incredible sophistication through the structures and languages, musical language that he uses, creating a piece that measures its complexities. In other words, the nuance and novelty is in the exploration and exploitation of combinations rather than the creation of compelling individual elements. We can take several lessons therefore from this piece. Here are 3. 1. Simple forms bring clarity and accessibility. Tin uses rondo form, which is widely understood, and we can hear the A section come back and have variation between those repetitions. Using small motifs, we can still create sways of larger scale unity. In fact, it's a great way of creating large scale unity. If you have small linkages between things, you can create a highly unified piece. And thirdly, simple harmonic structures placed in meaningful small and larger scale combinations can still lead to compelling relationships. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's probably a little truncated in relation to what I've unearthed in looking at the piece. If you've liked this video, be sure to subscribe and click that bell icon if you want, warning about future musical knowledge bombs that I might be dropping. If you have any questions or feedback, then be sure to get in touch below by commenting or using the link to our contact form.